You are stressed out of your mind, deadlines are piling up, sleep feels impossible, and every small thing suddenly feels like a crisis. Weeks later you catch your reflection, and there it is. A single grey strand sitting right at your temple where there used to be nothing but colour. You didn't dye it. You didn't age a decade overnight. So what actually happened? For a long time this was treated like an old wives' tale. Grandmothers would say stress turns your hair grey, and everyone assumed it was just a saying, not an actual biological event. But scientists have now proven this is real. Stress can genuinely turn your hair grey, and the way it happens is stranger than most people realize. To understand this, you first need to know why hair has color in the first place. Deep inside every hair follicle sit tiny cells called melanocytes. These cells produce a pigment called melanin, and melanin is what gives your hair its natural color, whether that's black, brown, red, or blonde. Every single strand of hair on your head starts out completely colorless. It only gets its color because melanocytes are constantly pumping pigment into it as it grows. Here is the problem. Melanocytes are not permanent. They have a limited lifespan, and normally they fade away slowly over decades, which is why most people go gray gradually as they age. But researchers discovered that under extreme stress, this process can be dramatically sped up. In 2020, scientists at Harvard University ran an experiment on mice to figure out exactly how this happens. They exposed the mice to different kinds of stress and watched what happened to their fur. The results were shocking. The stressed mice developed grey fur far faster than the ones left alone. But the real discovery was not that stress caused greying, it was how it caused it. This is where it gets interesting. When your body experiences a stressful event, it releases a flood of chemicals as part of the fight-or-flight response. One of these is a hormone called norepinephrine. Under normal circumstances, this hormone helps your body react quickly to danger, sharpening focus and pumping blood to your muscles. But researchers found that norepinephrine does something else entirely inside your hair follicles. It overactivates the stem cells responsible for creating new melanocytes. Instead of slowly and steadily using up these pigment-producing cells over the years like normal aging, extreme stress causes the body to burn through the entire supply almost instantly. Once those stem cells are gone, they are gone permanently. Your hair follicle simply loses its ability to produce color, and the hair that grows in afterward comes out completely gray or white. This is where the story gets even more remarkable. Unlike a lot of stress-related damage in the body, this particular effect is irreversible. You cannot distress your way back to your natural hair color once those pigment-producing stem cells have been depleted. The follicle itself survives and keeps producing hair. It just loses the machinery required to color it. But here is the part that surprises most people. This does not require years of chronic stress. The Harvard study found that a single intense stressful event was enough to trigger this process. This lines up with countless real-world accounts throughout history, stories of people going grey seemingly overnight after surviving a traumatic experience. Soldiers coming out of brutal combat, people who survived sudden tragedies, leaders under the crushing weight of decisions during war. For years, these stories were dismissed as exaggeration. Now, there is actual biological evidence explaining exactly how this could happen. So, why does stress specifically target hair pigment and not something else? The answer lies in how sensitive melanocyte stem cells are compared to other cells in the body. These cells are involved in an extremely active high-turnover process. They are constantly working to divide and produce new pigment cells throughout your life. That constant activity makes them especially vulnerable to sudden hormonal spikes, because they simply do not have the same protective buffers that more dormant cells have. Interestingly, researchers also found that this specific grey hair mechanism is different from general aging. Ordinary grey hair from getting older happens gradually, as melanocyte stem cells naturally decline over decades. Stress-induced greying is more like an emergency shutdown, a rapid and premature depletion triggered almost instantly by the body's own chemical stress response. This raises an unsettling question. If a single stressful event can permanently grey a patch of hair, what about people living under constant chronic stress for years? While the exact long-term effects are still being studied, researchers believe chronic stress could accelerate overall greying across the scalp rather than just a single strand, essentially draining the pigment, producing reserves faster than they would naturally deplete with age. There is also a genetic layer to this story. Not everyone reacts to stress the same way. Some people appear to have more resilient melanocyte stem cells that can withstand hormonal surges better than others, which might explain why some people go grey in their 20s under pressure, while others stay fully coloured well into their 50s despite living high-stress lives. Genetics essentially determines how much of a buffer you have before the system starts to break down. So, what can you actually do about this? Unfortunately, once a strand of hair turns grey due to stress, there is currently no known way to restore its original pigment. The stem cells responsible are gone, not just dormant. However, researchers have found some early evidence that reducing stress or blocking certain stress-related pathways in future hair growth cycles may help protect the remaining pigment-producing cells from suffering the same fate. In other words, you may not be able to reverse existing grey hair, but managing stress could help prevent additional patches from forming. This entire discovery reframes something people have joked about for generations. That silver streak of hair after a brutal year at work, after a personal loss, after months of overwhelming pressure, is not just a coincidence or an old saying passed down through generations. It is your body's stress response literally burning through a biological resource it can never replace. So the next time someone jokes that you are stressed enough to go grey, know that they might be more scientifically accurate than they realize. Your hair color is not just cosmetic, it is a quiet biological record of what your body has been through, and once the stress writes itself into that record, there is no erasing it.